What's going on, guys? Vic VP back. We're talking arcades. We added another addition to the game case. Please welcome the Bartop Edition. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited about this. This is the second bar top I made. The first one I did not shoot any video because I wanted to make sure it looked good. Now that that one's sold, I introduced to you the official bar top. This is the first ever. We're gonna go through real quick this one. This is my first ever Hyper Pi. Yes, that is a Raspberry Pi arcade. I've never done a Hyper Pi, never done Raspberry Pi. I sat down for about maybe 2 weeks and built the whole database to it. And I'll be honest, I'm not a total fan of it, but some people like it. So this bar top right here is supporting a Raspberry Pi. First things first, I must give credit where credit is due. The bar top cabinet is brought to you by Game Room Solutions. Ryan, great guy. I buy everything from him. I go to his eBay store all the time. Everything from the cabinet to the arcade buttons, the LED buttons, the Zen mode control that's inside this bar top to control everything. Everything came from Game Room Solutions. We're gonna make a couple series to this one specific episode. We're gonna talk about the bar top mostly. I'm gonna make another episode talking about Hyper Pi, and we'll go through and actually sit down. I'll plug this into my Elgato and we'll do a whole screen capture on this. But it's a pretty cool bar top. It is pretty conveniently sized. It is kind of small. It is supporting a 19-inch TV, LED TV I have in this, so 19 inches the max. We're gonna do a couple of B-roll shots. You're gonna see a couple of zoom-in shots as far as the edge of this TV hitting the edge of the cabinet. It fit perfectly. So this is a 19-inch screen that's inside this arcade. Figure the arcade width alone is, I don't know, 21 inches. I'm not gonna go into that much detail, but it is perfect for any countertop. I have a lot of people that own apartments and they are looking for this, and it is the perfect solution to having a almost upright arcade in your house. So I've come to the realization that while I was talking, I've been pointing up to the ceiling, so I'm gonna aim a little bit higher, or we might actually start sitting down and talking about this. But first thing, I do wanna cut the lights off. This way you can kind of see all the little features that I have built into this. There is an LED light inside the marquee. I'm gonna talk behind the camera. So we do have an LED light behind the marquee. It doesn't look that great on camera, but in person you do see the actual GameCase logo. It doesn't have this bar that's here on the camera. It's much brighter in person. Also, a little bit of the add-on I added a blue LED strip right along the bottom of the cabinet just to give it some flair and all that. The LED is really bouncing off as far as the camera, but in person you don't really see the specs. I kind of see it in the camera. You do kind of see it as a more easy kind of LED strip. Again, LED buttons. This is a 2-player setup, 6 and 6 with 4. Originally Ryan gave me 4 buttons, but then I had to drill 2 holes to make it a 6-button setup. I apologize in advance if the audio is bad on this. I don't have my microphone hooked up, but we'll make it do because it is 12:30 and I'm excited because I finally got this Hyper Pi thing to work. I never dealt with a Raspberry Pi. I've sat down, I downloaded a couple of ROMs. It's all about the SD card. This is running a 200 gigabyte SD card. It's such a headache. I'll be honest, I'd rather do hyper spins, meaning laptop based, rather than a Hyper Pi. But the computer is cheaper. It is definitely cheaper than a laptop. But with that, you got to deal with the headaches and all that. In another episode, we're going to talk about the plus sides and the downsides that I think really set a Hyper Pi system apart from a hyper spin setup. Right now, if you notice, ever since I started talking to the camera, the screen hasn't moved. This right now is running Emulation Station. It doesn't have that great of a front end, we call it. I do have attract mode on this, which does make it look a little bit nicer, but it's really missing the kind of random flow, the random spin that Hyperspin gives you. Before we go into that, let's talk more about the cabinet because this is going right to Ryan at GameRoomSolutions.com. Again, great guy, awesome guy. My one little suggestion, if you can, buddy, let's bump up the size of this. Let's try to get a 25 to 29 inch screen on this. People are going nuts for it. I promise people will go crazy for it. Now this cabinet is the deluxe version. This is about, I think, $170. He does have an $80 one. I don't know what the difference is, honestly. This one has more accessibility, I like to say. I was gonna get the first one, but I don't think it has the cam lock system, the IKEA style system like this has. So I thought, you really needed to do a lot of wood gluing and screwing, which I didn't want. Luckily with this build, the way he has it set up, IKEA style, There is no screws on the end of this. You don't see anything. There's nothing unaesthetically pleasing to it. Now right now, I don't have the glass. He does supply you with the plexiglass to go across the side, across the screen. I don't have that on right now, but I do have it. That was awesome. So this is a whole almost turnkey, I have to say. I can't say turnkey, but it's almost turnkey. It's mostly the cabinet with your plexiglass on the controller, the marquee plexiglass, the plexiglass here, and he even has the plexiglass here. But because that was my fault, I ordered the wrong button layout, I can't use the plexiglass on that. But it's not that big of a deal breaker. As far as the T-molding on this, I did purchase, I think it was like $15 for a T-molding. 20-foot roll was more than enough. I think after I cut everything, it came out to about 6 feet extra. So if you are looking at this and asking about T-molding, 20-foot roll from eBay, it was like 15 bucks, will work. I did put the T-molding in, very easy. Ryan actually has a good video as far as how to hammer it in. Now I went with the black. He does supply the black straight. The customer that's buying this, I'm not gonna say went on the cheap end of it, but they're gonna just kind of slap stickers on this. They didn't want to bump up to get the actual vinyl sticker to this, which Ryan does. I didn't get it, they didn't want it. So we do have a straight black, red T-molding and all that. Before we go to the back of the cabinet, let's take a look at the one thing that the deluxe version has, and that is the control panel able to lift up. Huge. Again, this is my first Raspberry Pi. I probably lifted this thing like 20 or 30 times. Very big time saver, especially when it came down to actually searching for the buttons, fixing everything and all that. Again, with the other version, I don't know, but this is the biggest selling point on this deluxe version. For me to actually rock this up and down, amazing. Now in his video, he does supply like a little kind of a pin to keep this locked in. I didn't get that, but I'll be honest, this thing is so tightly built that I have to really kind of push this down to really keep it down. Some of the things though, not downsides, don't think of it as a negative, but it looks like some pieces are a little bit bigger than they should be. For example, the plexiglass right on the edge here is riding right against the T-molding, so it is pretty tight, and I'll bring you in closer to see that. If you see carefully on this, you can kind of see it. The plexiglass rises, but here I just kind of push this down, start from the back, work my way forward, and we are in. Again, this is down. There's not much gap as far as the bottom. There was a couple of wires that do kind of get jammed here, but it works. All in all, it does work. T-molding is perfect. This is a 3/4 inch T-molding. Again, perfect. I wrapped it even from the bottom. It's underneath the bottom and all that. Now I'm gonna mention the one downside that I noticed to HyperPi. For some reason, I've been at it for about 2 days. I cannot get the exit emulator to work as one button. It's driving me nuts. But real quick, just to kind of go over this, I do have my exit, which kind of is dumb in my situation with the HyperPi because it just doesn't work. I have my coin, my player 1, my coin, player 2. With the HyperPi, to exit this, you do have to press, I have it set for start and select basically. You press those two, screen comes up, and then you press exit retro arch, which we'll do a video later on. Again, this is sporting a 19-inch TV. The big thing to also keep in mind, because Ryan does offer it, the plexiglass that he has here, he does have the bezel purchase, the bezel vinyl. Right now, if you take a very closer look, if my camera was okay, I might have to turn more light on, hang on. This is better. If you could see here now, you do have a good, I mean, it's 2 fingers of a gap, and also the bottom 2 fingers of a gap. Again, it's a 19-inch screen, standard 19-inch screen I got. So even if I do put the plexiglass here, the customer will definitely be able to see this. You do see this gap, which I kind of think is okay. It's pretty cool because you can kind of see the guts of it. You can see the blinking Raspberry Pi going on and all that. As far as the marquee, I didn't notice this, but I was kind of upset when I printed this. I'll be honest, I went the cheap route. This is literally a 8.5 by 14 paper. Literally, like, I printed it straight from my printer and called it a day since the customer didn't buy a whole vinyl setup. And then I put 2 black strips here. I didn't realize that the L molding that he gives you, it actually almost covered a lot of it. So if I had to cut this, it is cut. I did this. Basically, I just have it on the 2 corners and all that. In reality, if I kept it here, it would have blocked the whole thing, and on the top it would have blocked the whole thing. So basically when I put the L molding, basically from the bottom of the G all the way up to the blue on the bar was only visible. It actually cut the whole thing. That was my fault, I guess, but just to keep in mind. Again, I can't really tell you how high it is. I mean, I could get a ruler, but I'm not doing that. But it is pretty cool. I've yet to try it out with 2 players next to me. I've been playing it by myself. But let's take a look at the main thing, again, to keep in mind with the deluxe edition, is the open door concept in the back. There's a couple things that I've added to this to make it work a little bit better. Unfortunately, Ryan, I'll be honest, this right here was a little bit of a pain. So I'm going to show you real quick what I did to do that. Again, the biggest thing on this was that this was a hinge style. So this doesn't pull out now. This does go up and down. It does supply you with the little lock mechanism there, and it holds in and all that. I do have 1 single extension cord that's powering 3 plugs into this. Drop it, and there we go. We basically have the life here. There's basically my Raspberry Pi going on here. My plugs are here, and basically I try to do some nice cable management, staples, and all that. I did run the LED strip, kind of just to give us a little kind of back window to help us. I do have 2 speakers up here, computer speakers, Amazon speakers, cheap ones. I think it was like $5, and we have the little controller here. Do want to fix that up. That's me. I'm supposed to just kind of pop this in, and I won't do it now, but it will be good for the customer. Again, this is in case the customer ever has to kind of work on it or kind of change the SD on it, and we kind of just put that back, and there is your completed Bartop arcade. Here we're doing a reboot. Basically now I'm going to put the system into attract mode. Again, it's a pretty nice cabinet, pretty surprised. Again, a couple of little things to keep in mind as far as like the little gaps for the marquee. The other thing to keep in mind, again, like, I'm not blaming Ryan, it might have been me, but something to just think about. That little nub is very sensitive, so if anyone just trying to actually, there you go, see? If somebody's actually like playing hardcore, this does drop down. So I do have kind of a ghetto screw. I'm putting this right on the MDF. This way basically it'll hold it closed. Again, it is kind of ghetto what I'm doing, but it does now keep the frame from dropping. This right now is running the attract mode now. Almost like your Hyperspin. Pretty nice setup. The customer is definitely going to be pleased with this. Again, bare black. He does have it in black or white. I went with the black. Red T-molding, red and blue LEDs, and this is ready for the customer. Again, guys, I'm so excited. The Bartop is official. Yes, if you are in New York, hit me up. We can make one for you. I would love to say that I could ship these things out. It's going to be very difficult, especially the way you have to put it together. These things have to become pre-assembled and all that. The first one I didn't touch up on, but the first one I built was off of a God of Game. Basically, that is a JAMA board style arcade. You can take a look at my other video that I haven't really finished yet, which was the difference between HyperPie and that. But now that I did finish the HyperPie, we could go ahead and talk about the differences. Just mute that off. Again, this isn't like a sponsored or paid thing for Game Room Solutions, but I always like to support and give credit where credit is due. Ryan, Game Room Solutions, always hooks it up. I've bought, out of all the arcades that I've built, as far as Hyperspin builds, even the JAMA board builds, I've always bought the buttons, the Zinmo, and the controller combo he has for like 80 bucks. It's LEDs, it's everything. You tell him what colors you want. I had one build that we did was a Pac-Man themed build, so it was yellow buttons and red buttons. He hooked it up, and he also gives you spare buttons just in case. Again, Ryan, Game Room Solutions, you did it great with the bar top. Let's get this thing a little bit bigger though. And there you have it. This is ready for the customer, and hopefully we'll be able to shoot another video with maybe a Hyperspin kind of look to it and all that. In another video, we'll talk about HyperPie and my thoughts on it, and some things that people have to realize, especially like this customer that's getting this. This customer that's getting this did not want the additional Bluetooth controllers and all that. So this does have PlayStation on it, But I'm gonna be honest, it's not gonna work. You're not gonna get the whole full effect PlayStation because there is no, second analog stick. There's no L2. There's no R2. People have to realize that. But the only thing I could do is make videos about it and talk about it. So check us out on the next video. We are gonna plug this into the Elgato, talk more about Raspberry Pi and HyperPi and my thoughts and all that. But for now, welcome to the family, the Bartop Edition.